Christmas Vacation hit 1989 like a holiday meltdown nobody planned. Not the sequel John Hughes wanted, not the adventure fans expected, but one buried memory that turned chaos into a Christmas ritual. Behind the exploding lights, the invading relatives, and Clark's cracking sanity were surprises audiences never saw. A European title change that wiped the movie off the map, a real-life crush between the kid actors bleeding into the scenes, and a reunion decades later proving the Griswolds never stopped being a family. These are 16 weird facts about Christmas Vacation, where the disaster became the tradition and the meltdown became the miracle. Number 1. John Hughes didn't want to write another vacation movie. He felt he'd already said everything he cared to with the Griswolds, and sequels felt like studio machinery. When executives pushed for a third film, he tried to sidestep it out of exhaustion, not stubbornness. Then someone brought up an old National Lampoon story he'd written a decade earlier, Christmas 59, about crooked trees and childhood holidays that only look perfect in photographs. Hughes reread it and felt something shift. He didn't need to invent a Griswold Christmas, he'd already lived one. He took the cracked ornaments of that story, the father trying too hard, the family fraying at the edges, and rebuilt them around Clark's relentless, hopeful chaos. Then he did what almost no Hollywood writer does. He walked away entirely, later joking he didn't know Vegas Vacation existed until someone mentioned it on set. It became the classic he never wanted to write, born from a memory he could never outrun. Number 2. For a brief stretch, European marketers tried to reinvent the entire movie. In the early 90s, it was renamed National Lampoon's Winter Holiday, as if dropping Christmas made it more appealing. Posters swapped Clark's Santa suit for regular clothes, the lights vanished, and the typography went generic, more like an airport delay comedy than a meltdown with a burning tree and Cousin Eddie in a bathrobe. Audiences never connected, distributors reversed course, and Winter Holiday vanished into collectors' corners, surviving only on rare VHS boxes, a Christmas classic stripped of Christmas, only to reclaim it forever. Number 3. Aunt Bethany's trembling greetings and patriotic pledge weren't delivered by a newcomer, but by Mae Questel, a performer whose career began in 1929. Long before she wrapped herself like a gift and asked if the house was on fire, she voiced Betty Boop and Olive Oyl. By the time she arrived on set, she was in her 80s, frail but razor-sharp, bringing the same musical quiver that once animated black and white cartoons, a Christmas legend played by a woman who helped invent animation itself. Number 4. Before they were TV legends or Oscar nominees, they were just kids in oversized sweaters surviving the Griswold holiday. Johnny Galecki and Juliette Lewis were barely teenagers on the Warner Brothers lot, long before Galecki's sitcom fame or Lewis's Oscar nomination. But the magic wasn't only in the youth. Director Jeremiah Chechik surrounded them with veterans like E.G. Marshall, Doris Roberts, and Diane Ladd, whose presence gave the film unusual emotional weight. Beverly D'Angelo later called it the richest ensemble the series ever had, a family built from some of Hollywood's strongest players, which is why the movie still feels warm decades later. Number 5. The Vacation franchise has one running joke that never gets explained. Rusty and Audrey never look the same twice. Every film recasts them, and continuity dies a hilarious, intentional death. Christmas Vacation kept that tradition, adding a twist. For the first and only time, Audrey was taller than Rusty. No one hid it, the kids simply showed up and embraced it. Fans still debate whether it was intentional. By the time the family photo lands on the mantle, the pattern is sealed. The Griswold kids are less characters than seasonal decorations, swapped every movie, and that inconsistency became one of the franchise's most consistent jokes. Number 6. Johnny Galecki wasn't a sitcom veteran yet. He was a kid trying to keep pace with Chevy Chase, a master of physical comedy who could shift from deadpan to explosive in an instant. Early in filming, Galecki struggled with pacing. Chase noticed, pulled him aside between takes, and taught him the rhythm of Clark Griswold: hopeful breath, rising panic, then comedic implosion. One afternoon, Chase even walked him over to the Ghostbusters 2 set to meet Bill Murray. For Galecki, it was a private masterclass, and he later said the lesson stuck with him for life. You can still hear a little of Clark Griswold in his timing on The Big Bang Theory. Number 7. John Hughes wrote Christmas Vacation with a familiar heartbeat, a quiet father-son moment like the ones in every vacation film. Chevy Chase, the crew, and the script were ready, but the youngest person on set wasn't. Galecki, still early in his career, thought the scene unnecessary and politely turned it down. Filming moved on, and the movie lost the emotional pause Hughes always tucked between the chaos. Years later, Galecki admitted the decision haunted him. It wasn't a failure so much as a young actor learning the value of stillness, and in a film built on meltdowns, that missing softness became its own kind of memory. If that little bit of holiday warmth still resonates, you can bring Christmas Vacation home. Check the links below for the Blu-ray, DVD, or 4K. Thanks for the support, it really means a lot. Now, let's plug those lights back in and keep going. Number 8. On screen, Ruby Sue is sweet, sharp, and a little mischievous. Behind the scenes, actress Ellen Hamilton-Latson was dealing with something far more chaotic than Christmas dinner, her first real crush. She later admitted she was hopelessly smitten with Johnny Galecki throughout the shoot, and during the long dinner table scenes, she kept trying to get his attention, whispering jokes, tossing marshmallows, sneaking glances whenever the camera swung past. Galecki, focused and a bit shy, barely noticed, but for Latson those small moments became some of the sweetest memories of her childhood acting career. A reminder that even in a movie full of exploding trees and ranting relatives, the real story sometimes happens quietly between takes. Number 9. Clark Griswold's meltdown isn't just a scene, it's a cinematic explosion. 90 straight seconds of profanity, panic, and pure holiday hysteria that audiences quote every December. But Chevy Chase didn't actually have the whole speech memorized. The rant was so long and tricky that the crew scattered cue cards everywhere, taped behind ornaments, tucked near actors' legs, held at waist level just out of frame. Chase would storm past each person, catching the next line with a flick of the eyes, building momentum like a runaway sleigh. Watch closely, and you can see his gaze darting from face to face. The genius isn't the trick itself, but how flawlessly he masks it. That breakdown wasn't chaos. It was choreography, delivered with the precision of a dancer hitting every beat, and it turned Clark Griswold into a holiday icon. Number 10. On screen, the world outside the Griswold home looks like pure Chicago winter. Crisp snow, icy streets, that cozy blue glow. But when the crew arrived in Breckenridge, Colorado, the town looked nothing like Christmas. Just dry roads and bare rooftops. Production scrambled, hauling in truckloads of artificial snow and spreading it across lawns by hand. It took hours, actors slipped, props sank, but it worked, and then nature delivered a punchline even Clark couldn't have written. A massive storm dumped 10 feet of real snow on top of everything they'd just built, forcing cast and crew to ride snowcats to reach their sets. It's the perfect irony. The moment they faked winter, the real one came roaring in. Number 11. Every vacation film follows the same pattern. Pack the car, hit the road, descend into chaos. Christmas Vacation broke that formula entirely. No road trip, just one house, one holiday, and one family slowly losing its mind. Hughes wanted the story to feel claustrophobic, capturing that holiday tension where no one can escape, turning the Griswold home into both a comfort and a trap, the perfect pressure cooker for Clark's unraveling Christmas spirit. Without the usual travel antics, the movie became a standalone classic that fans who've never seen the other films watch religiously every year. The only chapter that doesn't wander, because the real journey happens inside the house. Number 12. Of all the Griswold adventures, only one inspired a direct sequel, and it wasn't the original Vacation, European Vacation, or Vegas Vacation. It was Christmas Vacation, the one film Hollywood tried to bottle twice. In 2003, NBC released Christmas Vacation 2, Cousin Eddie's Island Adventure, a tropical spin-off starring Randy Quaid and Miriam Flynn, bringing back Dana Barron as Audrey and Eric Idle as another victim of Griswold chaos. Without Chevy Chase or Beverly D'Angelo, though, the heart of the franchise was missing, and the movie earned a brutal 12% on Rotten Tomatoes, cementing its place as the strangest detour in vacation history, proof of how hard the original hit. Number 13. Randy Quaid has played presidents, cowboys, villains, and heroes, but none of them follow him through airports the way cousin Eddie does. Quaid once joked he could win an Oscar, and people would still shout his famous "Shitta was full" line across a parking lot. On set, Eddie was meant to be just a chaotic detour in Clark's unraveling holiday, but Quaid gave him a swagger, sincerity, and bizarre brilliance that turned every line into something fans never forgot. For Quaid, it became the role that defined him, not his biggest part, but the one America claimed as family. Number 14. No sequel, no script, no studio plan, just a clothing brand making a Christmas ad and accidentally pulling off one of the biggest reunions in holiday movie history. In 2012, Old Navy launched commercials featuring reunions from classic films, and when they approached the vacation crew, the response was immediate. Suddenly, Chevy Chase, Beverly D'Angelo, and Juliette Lewis stood shoulder to shoulder again as the Griswolds, joined by Anthony Michael Hall, the original Rusty, Jason Lively, the European Vacation Rusty, and Dana Barron, the very first Audrey. It became a family photo disguised as a commercial, not an ad, but a homecoming, proving the Griswolds always find their way back to each other. Number 15. For a movie set entirely in one house, Christmas Vacation made a lot more noise than anyone expected. With a budget of $25 million, it quietly opened in December 1989 and stunned the studio by pulling in $73.3 million, outgrossing both the original Vacation and European Vacation. It didn't rely on exotic locations or big stunts. It relied on every awkward Christmas memory people carry with them: the burnt turkey, broken lights, and inescapable family chaos. For more than 2 decades, it held the crown as the franchise's biggest hit, until the 2015 reboot finally passed it financially, proving you don't need a road trip to make a classic. Number 16. Chris Columbus needed Christmas Vacation. Young, hungry, and desperate for a studio hit, getting hired to direct the third Griswold film felt like his big break. Then it fell apart. 2 meetings with Chevy Chase turned tense fast, and Columbus realized he couldn't work with him without sinking the movie or himself. Walking away meant losing the biggest opportunity of his career, and he went home convinced he'd made a fatal mistake. Then the phone rang. It was John Hughes, saying that since the Vacation film didn't work out, he had another script worth reading. It was Home Alone. In one stroke of fate, the job he couldn't take handed him the movie that made him a legend. Bonus fact: hidden inside one of the most beloved holiday films ever made is a strange secret. Christmas Vacation never actually reaches Christmas Day. The lights go up, the dinner burns, the tree catches fire, the squirrel attacks, the police raid the house, but the calendar never flips to December 25th. Every disaster, meltdown, and laugh happens on Christmas Eve. Hughes and director Jeremiah Chechik kept the entire story frozen in the night before Christmas, letting the film live in the anticipation and chaos of the lead-up rather than the day itself. It's a Christmas classic that never shows the holiday, and that's exactly why it works. It captures the build-up, the stress, the hope, and the mess that come before the morning ever arrives. In the Griswold house, Christmas Day isn't the destination. It's the dream Clark keeps chasing. Christmas Vacation was never meant to be a masterpiece. It was messy, chaotic, and painfully honest, and that's exactly why it became a tradition. Somewhere in the tangle of lights and cracked ornaments, the movie found the truth about the holidays. We don't show up for perfection. We show up for each other. We watch it every year because it feels like our own families, loud, stubborn, flawed, hopeful. And when those lights finally blink on, even for a moment, it reminds us why we keep trying. Because Christmas doesn't shine when it's perfect. It shines when we care enough to try again.